Former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer joins me now. Sean, good to see you tonight. What do you make of what you heard about that meeting this afternoon, and what happens next?
I don't know what happens next. I mean, look, the president laid out a very compelling case last night. The idea that border security, national security, human trafficking, and drugs flowing over our southern border are somehow now political football is wrong. These should be bipartisan issues. Frankly, it is political in the sense that in 2013, all 54 Senate Democrats voted for $40+ billion of border security, including 700 miles of fencing. The only reason that there's opposition is because it's Donald Trump that's proposing this. You know, one of my predecessors and one of the Fox contributors, Ari Fleischer, had a great idea, which is Nancy Pelosi and Trump and Schumer should just do this. Give all the money to the Border Patrol and say they get to decide what goes on. Because the reality is that anybody with a brain will recognize that we need a combination of border wall and fencing along the southern border that we have, that's always been a bipartisan issue. But if we take Trump's name out of it, somehow if we called it the Schumer border security bill, they'd probably pass it. The only reason they're against it is because it's Trump.
Yeah, but they don't seem to be even in favor of real border security at this point. I mean, when you look at, you know, the left of their party, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer sort of represent, you know, a kind of language that used to be spoken quite a bit on the part of Democrats, that they wanted border security. You're not hearing that the way that you used to, because I think they're getting a lot of pressure from folks who are further left on the spectrum than they are. They can't talk like that anymore.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, you look, Nancy Pelosi almost didn't become speaker when there was no one running against her because of the far progressive. She used to be the one that we as Republicans cited as the far left, you know, candidate, the far left policymaker. She's now the mainstream of the Democratic Party. And I think that she is continuing to make sure that she keeps her left wing in check. But the reality is that this shouldn't be a political issue. This is something that Democrats have voted for in the past, have been supportive in the past.
You're absolutely right. It shouldn't. But when you listen to the reaction to the president's address last night, it was all about, you know, all of the lies, all the fact checking that was required to get through the president's address, the contention that that border crossings have fallen. You know, these are tricky numbers, because when you look at the number of unaccompanied alien children, that number was up 21% last year. Of 50,000.
Right,
Family crossings are up 42%. So, I mean, you know, everybody sort of picks the numbers they like better, I guess.
But here's the thing that I think is ridiculous when we have a discussion about that, is it only takes one to be a problem. It's not, I mean, why do we sit back? We have security at airports, not because there's a ton of people that are looking to do ill will. You put locks on your door, not because you've been broken into 100 times, because you want to stop that one time. One person coming into this country killing another person illegally is too many. And so we should be doing everything we can. This is not just about a wall. The president's committed to overall border security. But this shouldn't be a discussion. The idea that we're not looking at the officer's family that you just had last week and saying, you know, normally when there's a national tragedy, we all gather together and say, what can we do as a nation to make sure this never happens again?
No, I mean, there are people who will watch that segment and say it's propaganda. I mean, it's not propaganda. It's that person's life. It's what's happening in their family right now. I do want to get your, you know, the media responses, because it's interesting. When this is Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon last night. Listen closely to the language here, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
Wanting barriers along the border is not propaganda.
No.
It's not immoral. It's not wrong.
The facts about that, though, who wants it,
and that's
who
where
doesn't,
our job comes in.
How much it actually does protect. Like you said, it's not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. There are other aspects,
100%.
other technologies that go along with that.
What do you get there?
I'm a little shocked. They've made a sort of a cottage industry out of attacking the president, and when they're on board, I think it recognizes the compelling case, not just that the president made last night, which he did, but I think that the overall nature in which this shouldn't be a political issue, and this is something that we should all come together. But when you see folks like that, who've been very outspoken and critical of the president, recognize how important this issue is to the security of our country, to preventing human trafficking, to stopping the flow of illegal drugs, it shouldn't be a question of of whether there's 4,000 crossings or 2,000 crossings or 10. The fact of the matter is we should be doing everything we can to protect our people, to protect them, whether it's people coming over illegally, protecting them from the flow of drugs, protecting women and children who are being trafficked. One is too many.
Yeah.
We shouldn't even have to have a discussion about whether it's X thousand or Y thousand. The bottom line is this. The president has made it very clear that he's going to protect the country and our people. We should be coming together on this. Let's fight it out over tax rates. Let's fight it out over regulation, regulatory reform. This should be something we should be coming together for.
I mean, it's interesting to note that Chris Cuomo had been in a closed-door briefing from the president, who, by all reports, was very, very committed and I guess somewhat persuasive, perhaps, to some people in that room, because hours later, that's what you heard from Chris Cuomo over at CNN. So, Sean, thank you. Thank you very much.
You bet, Martha.
Good to see you tonight.
Good to see you.